Hello and welcome to Twitch Talk Thursday. My name is Justin Bosock. I'm the esports coach at SEM School here in Sumner, Nebraska, and I'm also on the board of directors for the NSCSA. And tonight we are joined by Midland University esports coach Jordan Williams. How you doing, Jordan?
Doing pretty well. Doing pretty well despite the weather outside. It's a little intense. We almost had to cancel tonight's meeting because of the commute to, get things started.
Right. Yeah, it's slick out there. Everybody make sure you stay safe. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. So, I am originally from Gretna, Nebraska, and then at around grade six, I ended up moving to a small town called Kennesaw, Nebraska. It's closer to some of the Class 4 Division D schools that we saw at state just a couple weeks ago. But when I was moved out there, I actually didn't really have steady internet. At the time, I had tried downloading games on my mom's computer to play games, but I think it took at the time 6 uninterrupted days to download World of Warcraft on the speeds that we had available at the time.
I
So,
know I know exactly what you're talking about. We're in Division 4 land. That's sometimes, especially if you're in the country, you don't have access sometimes even to Wi-Fi. So it's like hot spotting and ooh, yeah, downloads are not friendly.
no, no. And actually, the lack of internet is one of the reasons why I met my now best friend, Penny.
Yeah.
But the other thing about that friendship is that it actually led me to my first introduction to competitive video games at the time.
Okay.
She was one to play CS:GO and was pretty decent at it. I don't know the ranking system in CS:GO off the top of my head anymore, unfortunately, but I think she was somewhere like top 30% of players at the time. But I'd never seen that before, watched her play a little bit, and then we also had a stint where we started playing Halo 4 duels on her Xbox 360 for a time, and we're competitive there.
Nice.
And that was the first time I was like, okay, so playing video games and beating other people feels really good. And so that was kind of where I started getting a bigger interest there.
Sure.
In high school, I was one to try every sport at least once. The only ones that I didn't try were cross country, really. But I ended up sticking with football all 4 years, and additionally, I was a speech athlete. I was a big nerd,
Oh,
essentially.
excellent.
Um, did speech all 4 years, ended up a state finalist, never a state finalist, but state qualifier 3 years. And then as I was looking for colleges, I was able to stumble across the Midland University, and I was originally going to be going there on a speech scholarship, but it was after one of my visits that I saw their esports room, and I decided to linger after my first visit to see what was going on. At the time, it was six dudes in the basement playing League of Legends. That's all
Yeah.
it was. It was a room that could barely hold like six computers and the people that were playing them. And they were playing on I think it was something like HP Pavilion all-in-one computers. Like they were the touchscreen computers,
Jeez.
getting anywhere from 50 to 45 frames per second on average, playing League of Legends of all things.
I bet you've come a long way since there.
Oh yeah, we've got nicer computers now to say the least, but they were pretty humble beginnings. It was still a club at the time too.
Mm,
But the year that I started college at Midland was also the first year that their esports program was offering was a program.
mhm.
Um, but it was also the first year that they were offering scholarships for esports. So I went on a speech scholarship, but decided to do esports on the side. Unfortunately, at the time, there weren't a lot of other people on the speech team, and I was really there for the team environment. So around November of my first year of college, I decided, you know what? I did speech for a lot of school, maybe time to change things up a little bit. Ended up switching to Overwatch on our
Hmm,
esports team.
nice.
At the time, I had tried playing Overwatch at home, but again, with my bad internet, it was miserable, probably averaging 150 ping.
Yeah, you got to have pretty good bandwidth to pull that one.
Yeah, I did manage to finish my placements before actually arriving at Midland. However, my strategy at the time, it was just at the tail end of season 3 of Overwatch Competitive.
Okay.
My strategy that got me to the bottom of gold was one tricking Junkrat And because Bastion was still a monster at the time
Right.
at that level, I would sneak behind enemy lines as Junkrat, getting kills if necessary. But my job would be to jump on top of the Bastion, kamikaze, destroying myself with my grenade so the martyrdom would finish the job.
Nice.
I hit gold doing that. Looking back, it is absolutely silly that that's where
That's
I landed.
hilarious. uh, so how long have you been there at Midland then?
So, my first year of college at Midland was 2017. I
Okay.
did all 4 years of university at Midland, and
Mhm.
then the year I graduated, May 2021, and then I got hired in June of 21.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Right on.
sorry, 22.
June
No,
of
21. Forgive me. Yeah, what year is it?
it's 22.
Yep, there we go. Yes,
Been
I
there a
got
year.
hired
That's
in
good.
June of 21.
Have you learned a lot in that first year, I guess, as esports coach there at Midland?
So I was fortunate enough to be pretty close with our previous director, Nathan Ragsdell.
Okay.
He's over at Granny View University now, and he did a good job of giving me kind of a over-the-shoulder perspective on what it was like running the program.
Hmm.
I had a little bit more insight than maybe somebody who was going straight from team to, a leadership position like that. I was not prepared for the sheer amount of emails. I
Uh,
will say that.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot. There's a lot to go through on a daily basis, let alone if you're out a couple days.
hmm
So what games do you guys play there at Midland?
So the main four titles that we offer at the moment are Overwatch 2, League of Legends, Valorant, and Rocket League. However, there has been interest expressed in the past, both on campus and from potential recruits. So I have been looking into the potential of adding titles such as Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, assuming that it continues its streak of interest.
Hmm.
And as well, I'm looking to see where Warzone ends to see if Call of Duty is worth us taking a step into. Because I
Sure.
also understand the next Call of Duty title is going to be, the two big publishers working together for the first time in a
Oh,
long time.
that's interesting.
hmm
It'd be fun to see what that looks like. So what would you say would be your most popular game that you're playing right now?
Surprisingly, this upcoming semester, Overwatch has been through the roof
Yeah.
when it comes to popularity. Like, um, I'm not going to probably field two teams, or well, I will be fielding two teams, excuse me. With the number of people, I think we could easily find three teams worth of individuals that
Really?
are, varsity, then two other rosters, but with each of those teams having two subs. I think there's
Uh,
easily 20 people on campus who are interested in Overwatch.
that's excellent. So did you play it before as when it was just Overwatch too?
Yeah, I played Overwatch originally. Um, at the time, I didn't know what League of Legends was. It was still
But
just, ants trying to destroy a big rock on the other side of each other's map. I would say League is my casual game of choice. Not well, casual, but when I want to play competitive in my free time, League is where I tend to gravitate more.
sure.
But over my time as a competitive athlete at Midland, I played Overwatch. Yes.
So what would you say were the biggest differences between Overwatch and Overwatch 2? And is there anything that you had to do in particular to make the adjustment?
So the game was very bizarre at launch. Overwatch 2, I mean.
Right, right.
It was really interesting playing from a perspective with the lack of an off tank, knowing something's missing, but
Mm.
not quite understanding what you're doing to perform that poorly. And it's like, oh, there'd normally be a Zarya keeping the Genji and Tracer at bay at this angle. Um, that and I also succumbed to the issue where controller acceleration was applying to mouse when it shouldn't have been, and so
Uh,
I thought I was just completely washed when I tried playing Ash for the first time in Overwatch 2.
well, that's yeah, it's kind of cool to see how that's one thing, we struggle with sometimes as a board too, is the games don't just stay the same. The games
hmm
change. So when they change, sometimes rules have to change, sometimes strategies have to change. So as esports coaches and people that are running the esports here in Nebraska, there's a lot of things to take a look at anytime there's even just a patch. as far as that
Yeah.
goes.
It's especially hard when you're in a scholastic setting and don't get the same respect is the last word, but or it's the wrong word.
Right.
When studios tend to put out patches, they usually have special versions of the patch for people at the pro scene and even amateur at certain levels of amateur. Whereas in Scholastic, we're still running into the issue of, okay, our tournament is going to be this weekend, and 3 days before that weekend, there's a patch in League of Legends that completely changes
Yeah.
jungle for the third time in 5 years. You don't know what's completely broken. Some teams could skyrocket in their performance because a character that somebody played got a minor buff. That wasn't minor because the game changed.
Right, exactly. So do you guys have anything in place for if there's a um change or like a map change or something? Or do you just go with the flow when it actually happens?
Change of map is in like map design.
Right, or a new character comes out.
Mm.
Like, can you use them right away, or do you have like a certain time you wait? Or
So, the main two in the main two that we participate in as far as tournaments go is NECC, and I'm also looking to return to NACE in the near future potentially. But NECC rules, the character is basically untouchable for the first 2 weeks after it's officially released.
oh,
Now with Overwatch, I can't remember off the top of my head if that includes like when the character is released or when the character is released to competitive. I believe it's just when the character is released flat out because you're going to be
okay,
scrimming with the character anyway.
sure,
But yeah, after those 2 weeks, they're fair game. And Harbor in Valorant actually did catch us off guard in one of our games this year
mm,
because it was the day he was able to be played. We'd forgotten it was that week, and then
yeah,
Harbor completely decimated our line of sights on Pearl, and it was a bad time.
yeah, I'm sure. So how many players do you have right now on your team there at Midland?
So on scholarship, I have 17
Oh,
players.
wow,
However, interest has been kind of picking up in some of the other groups on campus that have more free time at their disposal. I would say I can see upwards of 30 people in my arena, like unique individuals over the course of a week. And those are individuals that are like football players. I have a couple of football players who love
mm,
Rocket League, and so they want to try to compete in the spring when they're not busy until spring ball starts to kick
right.
in. And
So
then
it does
actually,
fluctuate a little bit.
yeah, I'll see like these 25 kids in the fall, and then I'll see these, like five of those kids will be replaced by eight others while the other ones are playing baseball.
Sure. So how do you get on your team there at Midland? What's the process for if you're a new student or if you're a student of existing there and you have an interest in joining the esports team?
The easiest way is just to talk to me, honestly.
Yeah.
I have a general run of questions that I ask people who are interested. What's their primary sport to kind of see where conflicts may exist there, their experience with the game that they're interested in, and how much time they're able to kind of apply to the game as well. And as long as those things kind of coincide with what we're looking for, they have a shot at making one of our rosters, whether it be varsity or otherwise. Um, and then those individuals who want to participate but can't always give 100% of their time, that's usually where I delegate more interest in our junior varsity rosters. Like you're good at the game, however, you can only make one practice a week because of your prior engagement. We're going to put you on JV for now, keep you practiced, keep you interested. And then when your schedule opens up, I'd be happy to see you reperform next semester.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of some of the same things that I do here at SEM too, is if you can't come as much as it says in the handbook that you're supposed to come, we can still use you as a sub. So what does your practice schedule look like there?
So the absolute minimum I require is about 10 hours out of my athletes. Of those 10 hours, that's usually about two team scrimmages, and that runs anywhere from 2 to 3 hours depending on what title you're playing. And then also included in those 10 hours is our actual match day.
Oh, okay.
A lot of my guys, I'm lucky enough that they are people who are here to hone their craft, so they're putting in a lot of free time, their free time into either just competitive grind or they're on amateur teams. One of
Hmm.
my players actually was fortunate enough to land themselves on the new Washington Justice Red roster.
Oh,
So I'm very proud
very
of what
nice.
for making it there. But yeah, I have a couple cases like that where they're on amateur teams, and that also takes up another part of their time. So if they have these opportunities in amateur, get a different perspective on the game, different levels of competition, I want to let them do that and then bring what they learn back into the program for future use, of course.
Sure, that makes sense. That's great. What so do you have like a structured practice? Like do you have yeah, just tell me a little bit about your practices, I guess.
So, up to this point, a lot of our practices have just been scrimmage situations.
Okay.
I encourage a lot of my players to put in drills like 30 minutes to an hour before the game starts, whether that just be like a couple goes through the practice range in Valorant or Overwatch, and then going into a quick game before the game actually starts, so you're not just going in cold.
Right.
But that said, I've been doing a little bit of research over this past semester and I have been learning that there are drill situations available. And I do have a strong feeling that drills are probably going to be the way to go. All you see are drills in traditional athletics. You don't really see a scrimmage scenario. You see
Right.
pockets of your teams focusing and honing their skills on a particular thing that they need to work on. The same thing can be done in nearly any practice tool in, any video game we play. It's a little bit harder with Rocket League because those exercise maps got take or the custom maps aren't available on Epic innately. So if you still have a Steam account, you're sitting on a gold mine.
Mhm.
But being able to run through those drill scenarios, some of the fun things that they put through in custom game situations in Overwatch 2 have been absolutely fantastic. The new training tool is useful. League is getting there. League
Yeah.
is getting there.
Yeah. Well, I it brought that up because I remember at the state competition, you and I were talking, and you said, if you ever have practice and you want me to come in, and I'd love to come and take a look at how you run practice. So I knew you were going to have a good answer for how
Hmm.
at least how you're processing, how you're going to structure practices. So are you still looking at esports teams to go watch practice or?
Yes. After hearing the titles that you guys are going to be participating in for your winter semester, I did do a little bit of thinking, and I think I'm probably going to hold off until a little bit closer to the start of your spring semester, just
Sure.
because those titles are going to be more what we're looking for. But they're also titles that need more practice, I would say,
Mhm. Mhm.
and they're also practices that I can probably give a little bit of insight into. So.
Yeah. Uh, what he's talking about there in our winter season right now, we're running Mario Kart and Clash Royale. It's more of a for fun season, kind of a break in between the two really highly competitive fall and spring seasons. So yeah, you nailed the nail on the head right there.
Mhm.
Uh, so what do your competitions look like?
So at the moment, there are two kinds of competitions that we really participate in. Our normal season tournaments, which are through fall and spring semester through NECC, and again, looking into returning to NACE sometime in the near future, which is we are put into a division bracket against other universities across the country in a similar skill level. It's usually brackets of 10. We play 8 different teams over the course of 8 weeks, and then depending on our performance, we're put into a 1 to 8 scale, and then it's your typical playoff situation. The other ones that we like to try to go to are LAN tournaments, and that's just put all the team into a van, take them to another state for the weekend, and hopefully they can get some pocket money doing what they do best.
Yeah, cool. So we haven't had our state tournament's been floating around between colleges. We've really enjoyed kind of getting hands-on look at some of the places, the arenas, the way they have them set up. Some are new, so it's a little bit bare bones. But what does your esports area or the place that you would play competitions look like there at Midland University?
All right. So it's a little bit hard to describe. So if anybody is interested in learning a little bit more about the actual like appearance of the arena, if you search Midland University Esports, it's going to be the dark room with a lot of bright colors that's in like an L shape.
Okay.
We have our own little room on the third floor of the Olson Student Center, which is our sort of public social area on campus.
Right.
Um, it's a two-tiered room where there's about a foot and a half high rise with steps that lead up to the top row of our PCs. That
Okay.
top row supports 10 computers at the moment, and then the rest of the arena has our remaining 7 units at the
Oh,
moment.
all right.
Um, we also have a couch with a TV hooked up to one of our PCs that I've been trying to convert into more of like a social space. We got some of the new Xbox controllers for our renewed interest in Rocket League, in case somebody didn't bring their controller.
Sure.
Um, so I'm also looking to turn that into an opportunity so people can play arcade games when they're not doing anything like, Steam games, Towerfall, Crawl, those kinds of, competitive but short and enjoyable titles, I'd say.
Ah, cool. So I hear that you have a sponsorship with Red Bull.
Yes, so we are fortunate enough to have a good partnership with Red Bull.
Oh, that's awesome.
They provide us with a couple cases of Red Bull every month, and in exchange, they or we try to show up to their tournaments when it is in my student schedules.
Sure, that's cool. Always looking for new opportunities like that. I'm sure all of colleges and other organizations would love to have sponsorships.
Mhm.
We have several sponsors, and we appreciate that. You were talking about your scholarships earlier. You said you had 17 scholarship players. What
Mhm.
kind of scholarships are you able to offer there?
So the scholarship that I offer are anywhere from 18 to 25 on average, and that's just determining a couple factors such as do you play this game, do you want to continue playing this game, and are your grades good?
Mm, yeah.
Those are the three absolute bare bones things you need to, get on my radar in that regard. There are a couple other factors, such as if you're coming with a lot of either tournament experience or a high competitive ranking.
Mm,
Those tend to knock that scholarship up a little bit higher.
mm,
In addition to that, I am looking to give a little bit more incentivized scholarships to individuals who are interested in more of the streaming and broadcast aspect of things. Midland in the near future, sometime in the next year or two, hopefully, we're looking to put more strides into rejuvenating the digital media side of our campus. Try to put more focus on content production, broadcast production, those kinds of things. And I would like to potentially provide a home for those students, being able to get hands-on experience in doing these things in our esports arena.
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it seems like things are kind of trending in that direction. You see more colleges offering opportunities for streamers, not just players, and that's kind of a neat thing. I think that's going to really take off, especially with the way social media is and content creators and all that stuff. So,
And who wouldn't want to go to college to shoutcast? Like
right?
you are getting a large portion of your tuition paid for, so you can be excited about video games twice a week. That's insane.
Okay, before we let you go here, what advice would you have for any new esports coaches that are coming in here in Nebraska?
One thing I will say is that I understand it can be hard coming into an organization with a bunch of individuals who know a lot more about a particular title than you may be bringing to the table initially.
I
Don't
can
be
relate.
afraid to trust those players. I am fortunate enough that a lot of the League of Legends aspects of my job were covered by one of my students, Trent. He did an amazing job. He's a Masters player. It would be silly for me to try to teach him how to play the game. He did an excellent job of being able to kind of relay that information to his team, both in and out of game as our IGL, and just kind of filling the coaching positions that I couldn't really fully uh, you know,
Yeah,
fill
that
myself.
makes sense. I mean, Yeah, if it wasn't for my players, I would have a hard time. I'm more of a facilitator of the players than I am
Mm.
a coach in the traditional aspect of that. But I think that's great advice for new coaches. And that's a great way to end our interview here with Jordan Williams, the esports coach at Midland University. So thank you once again for your time. And we will be back in January with our next Twitch Talk Thursday. And we might be talking with Coach Tucker in York, but that is subject to change. We'll keep you on the keep you in the know on that and update that here in a few weeks when we get some things finalized. But thanks again, Coach, for your time, and be safe. Have a great rest of your evening.